Have you ever felt trapped, stuck in a situation with no way out? The book of Exodus is one of the most powerful stories ever told, and it's all about that feeling. It's the story of how God takes an entire nation enslaved and hopeless and transforms them into a free people. It's a story that reveals God's character, His incredible power, His deep sense of justice, His overwhelming mercy, and His desire to be close to us. Exodus is filled with oppression, miracles, rebellion, hope, and ultimately, divine presence. And it all kicks off after 400 years of complete silence from God. Let's rewind a bit. The book of Genesis ends with Jacob's family settling down in Egypt. Fast forward a few hundred years, and that small family has exploded into a massive population. The new Pharaoh, feeling threatened by their sheer numbers, decides to enslave the Israelites. He forces them into brutal labor, trying to crush their spirits and their future. This isn't just about physical suffering. It's a picture of any system that robs people of their dignity, freedom, and purpose. It's in this deep, suffocating darkness that a deliverer is born, a baby named Moses. Moses comes into the world at the absolute worst time. Pharaoh had just ordered that all newborn Hebrew boys be killed. His mother, desperate to save him, places him in a basket and sets him afloat on the Nile River. In an incredible twist of fate, he is found by none other than Pharaoh's own daughter and is raised in the royal palace. Moses grows up living a double life. By adoption, he's Egyptian royalty, but by birth, he belongs to an oppressed people. One day he sees an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave and, in a moment of rage, he kills the Egyptian. He's forced to flee for his life, escaping into the desert where he spends the next 40 years as a shepherd, completely forgotten by the world. And then, everything changes in an instant. Out on a mountain, he stumbles upon a bizarre sight, a bush that is on fire but is unburning up. From the flames, God calls Moses by name and gives him an impossible mission. Go back to Egypt and lead the Israelites to freedom. Moses is terrified. He hesitates. He argues. He makes excuses. He tells God he's not a good speaker, that no one will listen to him. But God's response is simple and powerful. I will be with you. And then God reveals His personal name. I am who I am. This isn't some distant force or a philosophical idea. This is the living, present God who acts in human history, and He's about to make His move. So, Moses returns to Egypt. He stands before the most powerful man in the world and delivers a simple, bold message from God. Let my people go. But Pharaoh's heart is hard. He refuses. And so begin the 10 plagues. Now, these aren't just random natural disasters. Each plague is a direct attack on the so-called gods of Egypt and a direct challenge to Pharaoh's pride. The Nile, the source of Egypt's life, turns to blood. Frogs swarm the land. Then come gnats, flies, disease on the livestock, painful boils, destructive hail, swarms of locusts, and a darkness so thick you could feel it. Each plague intensifies, but Pharaoh's heart only gets harder. Finally, the 10th and most devastating plague is announced, the death of the firstborn in every Egyptian household. This is the blow that finally shatters Egypt's resistance and paves the way for liberation. But in the midst of this terrifying judgment, God provides a way of escape for His people. The first Passover, He instructs them to mark their doorposts with the blood of a lamb. That night, as the angel of death passes over Egypt, it spares every home marked by the blood. This night becomes an enduring symbol of deliverance, protection, and a new beginning. Broken and defeated, Pharaoh finally tells the Israelites to leave, but it's not long before he changes his mind and sends his entire army chasing after them. Imagine the scene. The Israelites are trapped. In front of them is the vast Red Sea. Behind them, the thunder of chariots from the mightiest army on earth. The people are terrified, crying out that they're going to die. But Moses stands firm and declares, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Lord will fight for you." Then, in one of the most spectacular miracles in the Bible, God parts the Red Sea. The Israelites walk across on dry ground, with walls of water on their right and on their left. When the Egyptian army charges in after them, the waters collapse and the entire army is wiped out. Their past, their slavery, their oppressors, all of it is gone, swallowed by the sea. Israel is finally, truly free. And their very first response is to erupt in a song of praise, celebrating a God who not only saves but triumphs over His enemies. But in the barren wilderness, they quickly learn that physical freedom is just the beginning of the journey. The desert becomes a classroom. When they have no food, God provides a mysterious bread from heaven called manna. When they have no water, He brings it gushing from a rock. When they don't know which way to go, He leads them with a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. The wilderness teaches them a crucial lesson. They must depend on God for everything. This isn't about survival. It's about relationship. Then we arrive at the central event of the entire book, Mount Sinai. The mountain is covered in smoke, fire, thunder, and lightning as God Himself descends. It's here that God makes a formal covenant, a binding agreement, with Israel. They will be His treasured possession, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. He will be their God, and He gives them the 10 Commandments. These aren't meant to be heavy burdens. They are the blueprint for a just, healthy, and free society. Exodus shows us that true freedom isn't just about being released from external control. It requires internal, moral, and spiritual transformation. Yet, in a shocking turn of events, while Moses is up on the mountain receiving God's law, the people down below grow impatient. They convince Aaron to build them an idol, a golden calf, and they begin to worship it. The contrast is staggering. As God is revealing His glory and His plan for their lives, His people are turning their backs on Him for a cheap, man-made substitute. It's a devastating moment of betrayal. Moses has to intercede for the people, begging God not to destroy them, and God, in His incredible mercy and faithfulness, relents and chooses not to abandon His people. This raw moment perfectly captures the tension between human weakness and divine grace that runs through the entire Bible. After this, God gives Moses incredibly detailed instructions for building a special tent called the tabernacle. This might seem like a boring section full of measurements and materials, but it's actually the climax of the story. The tabernacle is God's solution to the distance between Him and His people. It's a physical representation of His desire to live among them. Every single item, the Ark of the Covenant, the golden lampstand, the altar of incense, is rich with symbolism, pointing to relationship, forgiveness, and the awesome reality of God's presence. When the tabernacle is finally built and consecrated, the glory of the Lord fills it so powerfully that even Moses can't enter. God is now dwelling in the midst of His people. So, the book of Exodus doesn't end with Israel arriving in the promised land. It ends with God's glorious presence leading them on their journey through the wilderness. Think about that. The book starts with a nation in slavery and ends with the glory of God. It starts with a cry of suffering and ends with God dwelling among His people. It starts with a vulnerable baby in a basket and ends with an entire nation being led personally by the Lord Himself. Exodus reveals a God who sees our suffering, who hears our cries, who acts in history, who delivers us from bondage, and most importantly, who stays with us. When you really understand Exodus, you start to see that the entire Bible is a grand story of moving from slavery to freedom, from chaos to order, from despair to hope, and from distance to intimacy with God. This ancient story is our story, too. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comments which book of the Bible you want me to break down next, and make sure to save this video so you can come back to it whenever you need a reminder of this powerful story. See you in the next one.